This is SBR's Football Betting Daily.
What up, football fans? It is 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday, which means the Audible is in effect. My name is Jimmy the Bag, and I am joined, as always, with the legend, Donnie Rightside. How you feeling today, Donnie?
It's Friday. We get some good news out there today. You check those final practice reports and injury reports, set you up for that Sunday to see if we can have some fun. As always, love to be here. It's happy hour somewhere. Happy hour here in New Jersey. Let's have some fun, Jimmy.
Let's have some fun. Also, I want to give you a shout out. That video you sent to Low Shack in the Bag for our 500 show was hilarious and touching. You are a class act and a great guy. Thank you for sending us that video.
Look, I had to bust out the judge. It's only for special occasions. It's been literally 6 to 7 months, and that was the occasion where the judge had to come out of the woodwork and congratulate two good gentlemen here on the Sportsbook Review channel. 500, 1,000, 1,500. Maybe we'll bust it out again for you, Jimmy.
I absolutely loved it. Well, without further ado, let's give a shout out to our cappers that are joining us on the chat. D from Detroit, my man Elio Rodriguez, who beloved lowbagger, Brian Seymour, Ryan Gosling, Brick City Matthew in the house. Nice. We haven't had enough Brick City Matthew lately. Taylor H, Steve Murrin, a great crew. Oh, Raphael Kajat, Greg Schneider, Fuzz Logic. I am loving this. Also, sadly, Whale Capper won't be joining us. I'm sure he's on a sailboat somewhere with the wind in his hair, the sun in his face.
Or witness protection, Jimmy, one or the other, right?
Yeah. But in saying that, we're going to have more time for the chat, and that's something I'd like to do more of today. So we're really going to use and need your insights and ask us questions, and we're just going to be able to call an audible here and use you guys more than we've been able to. My man Ab Sports, Eric Nisbet, Comic Ricky, Anil Frank. Anil Frank, by the way, Texas Tech money line last night, this guy. Texas Tech money line last night. Moshi Bogarat, Crypto Boss says Whale Capper on fire. Yes, Whale Capper is on fire, and we love having him on the show. Well, let's get to it, Donnie. Let's start with the... Actually, you know what? Why don't we start with any kind of feedback from that Eagles ass-kicking last night? How do you think you guys are going to be moving forward? Are the Giants of auto fate moving forward? What notes do you take from that win?
Yeah, you know what's kind of funny with that, Jimmy? When you usually deal with like college basketball or maybe, another sport there, the NFL is always the opposite for me because you know what happens when the Giants fall to 1-5? I actually start leaning towards the Giants because I think that's where the value might come in there. They're getting a little bit healthier back on defense. They looked awful last night on a Thursday night versus the Eagles. A couple bounces did go the Eagles' way early in that football game, but the Eagles really put them out to pasture. But now I have that funny, that's just the way I work in the NFL. I want to get that team that buys low where now everybody's kicking them down. They're going to have the extra 10 days off to try to get ready for the next football game. I'm the opposite. I'll try to find value as long as it might appear itself there for the New York Giants. But from the Eagles' perspective there, good win for the Eagles. I always thought they were the best team in the division, even though they were struggling early on. It's nice that the Eagles, being an Eagles fan, you have a bad team with Washington, Dallas, and the Giants in the division. So maybe if you can only get to 10 wins or 9 wins, you still should be able to win the division here.
Absolutely. And I have the Eagles at minus 130 to do just that. Tomor says, Eagles still have issues on the offensive line, but Giants are horrible. And Donnie giving us a little insight on what side he may be on 10 days from now. Let's get right to it. Let's hit these 1 o'clock games, Donnie. Let's start with Cardinals at Vikings. We talked about maybe taking the Cardinals team total under, maybe backing the Vikings. It opened at minus 11. When we did our show, there was a minus 10.5. Now it's mostly 10s across the board. The total has stayed at 43. Thielen and Diggs are both among the top 10 in the NFL in catches this season. Patrick Peterson can't defend them both. Cousins has set an NFL record by completing at least 30 passes in 4 consecutive games. Arizona ranks second to last with just 146 passing yards a game. Fitzgerald's been held to 7 total catches in the past 3 weeks. David Johnson has done very little. Cardinals rank dead last in rushing offense, just 64.6 yards per game. Johnson's on pace to rush for just 774 yards. And then the Cardinals are giving up 142.4 yards per game. Cardinals defense was on the field for 40 minutes and 12 seconds and won by double digits against the 49ers. I'm still angry about it. The Vikings have owned this series lately, winning 4 of the past 5 9 straight in Minnesota. I followed through with a lot of our breakdowns last week and made bets. This is one that I still am hesitant to do, and I can't wait to hear your breakdown of Cardinals at Vikings.
Yeah, some people would say and lean towards, because there's two camps that you would be in, Jimmy, with the Minnesota Vikings, right? Oh, my goodness, they turned the page. They're going to get a bump off of beating Philadelphia and on they go for the rest of the season after suffering a couple tough losses. Then there's the other camp that says, oh, that was like a Super Bowl to them, Jimmy. Going to the Philadelphia, pulling out a win. They couldn't do it last year. Now they decompress and no, they're playing a bad football team, because there's a little bit of an MO here, right? They lost to the Buffalo Bills at home, but I use that as actually not as much as a cautionary tale to say, you know what? You know what Mike Zimmer does in front of the locker room this week? You know what happened before? We were a huge favorite against the Buffalo Bills. We didn't take care of business. Let's make sure we go out and take care of business here when upcoming game versus the Arizona Cardinals. It would be a different story to me. There's bad football teams, Jimmy. You want to say maybe the Seattle 49ers, but then there's bad football teams that can't even move the football or be competent on offense. 28 points. If you just looked at the final score and say, hey, Donnie, they went on the road last week. They put up 28 points and won by 10 versus the 49ers. They can hang with the Vikings. That doesn't tell the tale of what actually happened in the football game. 200 yards of offense, that's how you know what football team you're going to get, because their MO, 68 yards, 145, 54, 83. These are numbers of rushing and passing for the Arizona Cardinals here. You can't get away with that long term in the NFL. It's going to catch up to you. I think the Vikings, now they're going to get Dalvin Cook back. You have a nice little, running component out there. You can swing it out of the backfield, which they missed last year when they get rid of Jerick McKinnon. Hopefully he can play this football game coming back from missing a couple weeks. They're better at wide receiver. And you just look at this game as a whole. You say, you know what? I don't think Arizona can go up and down the football field. If you're going to get much more of the same, Jimmy, from what the Arizona Cardinals were giving you in the past weeks, they should get beat by double digits in this football game. It's tough to lay that in the NFL, but this is a spot where I wouldn't mind laying the 10 points because, again, I don't see Arizona, Jimmy, getting 125 yards on the ground and another 275 in the air. That's just not what they do.
It's just not what they're capable of, it seems.
Yes, exactly.
Elio Rodriguez says Arizona is just bad. Jim Tolbeson looking over the total. Vikings 26, Cardinals 18, which would be a Cardinals cover. Tomor, I like the Vikings here. This is their first home game since the humiliating performance against Buffalo. Arizona 0-9 against the spread last 9 early starts. Vikings saved their season. Interesting. I tend to agree with these guys. Tomor says Vikings have one bad loss all year. It was after the off-field issue with Griffin. Joe Yurkovich, bounce back for Vikings as home favorites. Moshe Bograt, Vikings easy if Cook is actually healthy. Scotty Rock forever. Vikings will handle business. Believe. Brick City Matthew, I like Vikings. Can't see them losing to another bad team. Eric Nisbet, lean mini. And then there's Crypto Capper saying cards are the play. Johnny Z saying Arizona is good with the 3-team teaser. I feel like I should stop being scared and I should pull the trigger with the Vikings. Do you feel like the Vikings team total under correlated play both make sense?
I don't know, because I don't know how much Arizona can push them. Because if we're looking at the way this game should go, to me, if I was looking at it, I think the Vikings are going to be able to score. But Arizona does have a decent defense. It wouldn't surprise me one of those games, Jimmy, that we're looking at 26-9, 26-13 type of game where Minnesota's comfortably ahead most of the football game. And I don't see Arizona's the type of team that can say, you know what, we're down 14 or 17 in the fourth quarter. We can go up and down the field on Minnesota. I think that cautionary tale of them getting beat by the Buffalo Bills is enough to sting in this football game and propel them, say, we're not going to let that happen again. This is a bad football team. They can't score on us. Let's go out and put the pedal to the metal. But I don't think they will have to push that hard on offense. I can see a game where Minnesota's in that mid to high 20s, but holds the Arizona Cardinals to around that 14-point number.
I agree with you guys. D from Detroit giving us a final score of 31-17. Jim Tolbeson says Vikings can't blow this team out. And then, who is it? Somebody giving love. Brandon Cummings giving love to our man Scotty Rock, saying, I will tail every one of Scotty Rock plays. He's made me money over the past few weeks, and Scotty Rock believing in the Vikings. Let's keep rolling along. Let's move to Chargers at Browns. There has been a move here. At first, it opened at a pick'em, and then the Chargers -1s came on the board. Now there's a couple Browns -1s. The total opened at 46, went all the way down to 44.5 and 44s on Tuesday. Now back to 45.5. The Browns have yet to lose at home. Chargers have scored at least 20 points in all 5 games this season. Phillip Rivers has looked very good. 13 touchdowns, 2 picks. only been sacked 6 times. Melvin Gordon scored a touchdown in 4 straight. Austin Eckler has been playing well. This tandem has 1,005 yards from scrimmage and 9 touchdowns. Todd Haley's going to utilize the 3-back monster, that 3-headed monster with Hyde, Duke Johnson Jr., and Nick Chubb. Hyde's looked great this year. Keenan Allen will be matched up with Denzel Ward, who I've just fallen in love with. He was a special teams player of the week on Wednesday. He combines with Myles Garrett to create just 2 studs on defense. But I was telling you guys I was leading Chargers on Tuesday. We broke this game down. I said that the Chargers were the best team that the Browns have faced this year. That took a little bit of blowback. I did follow through and bet the Chargers, make them official pick. Has anything changed in the last few days for your breakdown here, Chargers at Browns, Donnie?
Yeah, not a lot. The only thing that does make me a little bit nervous, though, is the NFL. Line movement, you're going to have to pay attention to it in certain instances. And the fact that the Chargers opened up at that -1 took a lot of public money. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the week, you're seeing, pick'ems out there, but also a lot of outlets showing now Jimmy -1 favoring the Cleveland Browns. Maybe there's something to it, but they still have to win the football game. And I think your analysis is pretty spot on there. You're coming in with the Chargers, who are a talented football team. They should be able to move the ball in offense. They should be able to force the issue with the Cleveland Browns, where you can't say, hey, first downs are good enough because we're going to hold the other team to 9 points or 12 points or whatever it would be, like the Baltimore Ravens came in and did last week. But they have been playing at home. They are going to be energized. And I still believe a little bit there. And it's, it's a part of capping where that West Coast team going to come east. Maybe their body clock's a little bit off. And what has shown you over the last 2 weeks, which is interesting here with the Chargers, they played down to the competition versus the 49ers. Then the very next week is, look, if you look at the final score, 26-10, hey, look, easy win, easy cover in that game. But you're looking at one boneheaded play by Derek Carr throwing the interception in the end zone. If that play is, hand the football off to Marshawn Lynch, that's a completely different situation. The only thing that would be concerning me is, can the Chargers pull away in this game? Now, we're not asking them to cover 3.5, 4.5, 7.5 or double digits. They just have to win this football game. But that line movement is enough to give me pause in this one and maybe revisit it. I like the Chargers a lot more early in the week than I do late in the week here.
The market's instilling fear in me as well. Homer says the Chargers defense is horrible. I feel like that's a little harsh. Dan Kelly says parlay Browns in the over. Mayfield making exponential improvement every week. Are you seeing exponential improvement out of Baker Mayfield?
Now, I mean, look, every time when you're a rookie, it's invaluable the amount of snaps that you get. The thing I like about him is when it's crunch time, he's not actually afraid to make the mistake, which a lot of times you get mad at rookies. Like, I can't believe you just did that. You saw in the Oakland game, he was going for the throat late in the game and throws an interception to Oakland, which allowed that game to go to overtime. But you saw last week on a 3rd and 9 deep in his own territory in overtime, throws a dime over the middle, which ends up converting to a huge play, which eventually leading to the field goal. I like Baker Mayfield's mindset because he's not afraid to throw that one-on-one 50-50 jump ball because he thinks these guys can make the play. But now you're going to play a team that's a little bit more talented, so those errors would be a little bit more magnified. But look, that line movement means something here. Usually I like to just say, hey, look, Cleveland stinks, I'm going to fade them. But maybe I have to take a sit back and say, what's the real Cleveland Browns here? Was it the team we saw last week, or was it a team that's going to be a little bit loose at the handle versus the Oakland Raiders? I actually almost tend to believe that they're more likely to play a game they did last week than they will versus the Raiders. The one thing that you do know is that defense is really coming to play, and to see if they can hold down this Chargers offense. But I probably won't be any a part of this game because I can't get a great read right now on exactly, Jimmy, what the Cleveland Browns are this year.
A lot of guys on our chat backing the Browns here, except for Johnny Z, who says Browns are always a pass for me. A lot of guys liking them here. Very concerning. I guess I'm just like you. I've been more and more concerned as this week has gone on. Jim Tobleson says, think this game goes under the 46. Very sharp capper. And Jim, another very sharp capper. And Dan Kelly says, parlay the over and the Browns. This total is now back to close to what it originally was. We've had the U-shaped movement on it. What do you think on the total?
Again, the same type of feeling because we've seen the Cleveland Browns go both ways, right? Shoot it out with the Oakland Raiders, but then come back and play some close to the vest games. They've gone on the road to New Orleans. I believe that game actually went under the total, which is amazing that New Orleans can actually go under the total in the Dome. I don't have a great feel because I don't really know what the MO or the game plan or the team is actually going to perform with the Cleveland Browns. Probably the toughest game of the week for me to break down here just because of the Cleveland aspect where I honestly don't know.
Yeah, uncomforting, very, very uncomforting. Let's keep rolling right along. Although my man, whom we just love, absolutely works at Soldier Field, John Roy, gives us these great updates, says Chargers owner died this week. He was 95. Do you think that will play any role in the Chargers maybe digging deep or fighting harder?
No. As long as the cash is still clear through the sun, I think they'll be okay with that and won't have too much of an impact on the game. I don't really think the Spanos family, I don't even know how ingratiated they are to their own team, saying, hey, you guys are going to work in San Diego, and by the way, we're going to go to L.A., and Phillip Rivers riding in his converted minivan up and down the Pacific Coast Highway, it seems like. So I don't know how ingratiated that owner was in the team as well.
I was thinking sort of along the same lines there. John Roy says, no way it goes over. It will be 50s and mostly windy. My man JP calming my nerves, saying, Chargers, this is obvious. You're overthinking this. And that makes me feel better. Let's keep rolling right along. Next up, Bears at Dolphins. Bears open at -1. Then on Tuesday, there were -3s on the board. Now 3.5s. And the 3 to 3.5, 7 to 7.5, we've spoken on Low Shack about how vital, how important these half points are at that price point. Total opened at 44. Then on our show Tuesday, you can get anything from 43 to 41.5. Now it's all 41.5s. Laramie Tunsil still in concussion protocol. That's a huge deal. I'm not sure if you have any insight on whether Tunsil will be playing.
He's been cleared. Yep.
He will play.
Okay, he was cleared out of today. Yes.
That is enormously important.
Yeah.
With the Sitton and Kilgore out for the year, he's hugely important. And we talked about how this is the wrong team to come up with an injured O-line. Cam Wake will not go as far as I know, but he's still listed as questionable. The Bears are dealing with injuries as well. Cornerbacks questionable, and Amma Kamara and Cooper. Trubisky coming off, a spectacular performance. A lot of people and a lot of Chicago guys were so fearful of ever taking the Bears and giving points. But this might be a new era for this Chicago Bears football team with this extremely nasty defense and a quarterback with some confidence, feeling good about himself. The Dolphins, though, seem at 3.5 points. I was going to make a move on the Bears, and this is another game where I've been a little uncomfortable, and now I think I may have missed my spot. What are you thinking here, Bears, Dolphins, Donnie?
From a spot perspective, I think it's a pretty good spot for the Miami Dolphins, and hear me out on this one. You're going to take a look at a team that opened up the season 3-0. No shame going to New England. A lot of teams go to New England and take a loss there, especially when New England really needs the football game. I thought they played a decent game last week against a good football team. The Cincinnati Bengals had the 17-0 lead, 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns on defense go against them. They end up losing that football game. Not only losing it, but if you're holding a ticket 6.5, you took the ultimate disrespect by not winning the game, but not even covering your ticket. Those ones are hard to figure out. But if you're from the Chicago Bears right now, did you actually want the bye week to come at that time? Your quarterback finally goes out, and look, not against a very good defense, but throws 6 touchdown passes. Everybody has a lot of fun. Then you go away for 14 days, and then you got to reappear and go back on the road. You're having all those good feelings in Chicago, toast of the town. Look how good our Bears finally are. We should be able to go out in the rest of the season and win. But sometimes that's a momentum break. Now, when you're looking for the Miami Dolphins side, they have a bye week next week. And I know from ownership and coaches and whatever business you've ever been a part of, nobody likes to go away on a holiday break or take a vacation when, the ceiling tiles are falling on top of you. And you say, hey, I'll be back in the next couple weeks there. That's not a good look. I think they took 2 tough losses. I think they can bow up at home here. Do they have to win the football game? Technically, no. But you're right about that price point, Jimmy. Early in the week when we had the roundtable on Sportsbook Review, that line was at 3. And I said, look, if you like the Miami Dolphins in this football game, just pass, because it looks like it's going to be about a 3.5 by the time it ends up, maybe even reaching in that 4 range. We'll see if there's any buybacks there. But I think the Dolphins are in a pretty good spot because, look, they're 3-2 on the season. They're not a bad football team, coming off 2 straight losses. I think they can hang around with the Bears. I think it's a lower scoring game. It might come down to a field goal. It would be nice to have the hook if you're looking at taking the Miami Dolphins.
I agree. The hook is a big deal. And I watched that whole Dolphins-Bengals game. I was so fortunate to cover with the Bengals. Did not deserve that cover at all.
That's found money is great, isn't it, Jimmy? When you just find that money when you thought you lost it, I love it, man. That's a good win, though.
I like it too, but I'm not finding enough of it, Donnie. That's the big problem. Tolmore says, I like Miami. Their offensive line is beat up, but teams coming off the bye haven't looked good. Miami is desperate. Elio Rodriguez, Dolphins are being disrespected. Troy V liking the Bears, Dolphins under. Fail Vine liking Miami team total under 7.5. Sorry, Johnny Z saying hot, muggy weather, 80s, humid. Bears going to be cramping up all over the place. Moshi Bograt waited patiently all week for the 3.5 like you mentioned. Homer said, I'm a Bears fan from Chicago. Bears are a top 5 team defensive, but Trubisky is still inconsistent. This is a tough spot. Do you think that the 41.5 total, are you leaning towards an over or under here in this humid Miami weather?
I think it tends to be lower scoring there, Jimmy. But even so, last week, I mean, all hell can break loose in the fourth quarter of a football game. You know, especially when you're looking even at the Cincinnati game. You know, defensive touchdowns. People are pressed for time at the end of football games. One team's trying to score, turnover here, turnover there. When it's 41, even though I really like the under, I tend to stay away from those games because I've been on it quite a few times. Back in the past, you know, when the NFL wasn't so high scoring with all the penalties, they were a little bit easier. But anytime you see like a 40 or 41, it's almost, even if the game is like 10-3 at the half, they tend to go over because they just open it up and get it in the second half. I like the under. I'll say that, but taking it and putting money on something around a 41 is hard for me to do these days, Jimmy.
Very risky. And John Roy talking about, I love these Chicago guys. It's so funny. It's the one city where they just constantly question their football team, and it's so funny to me. John Roy talking about Trubisky's home and road splits, how bad they are. Do you think this is something that will continue, or he's a young quarterback and maybe we shouldn't take too much into those road splits? How do you break down his splits when you're breaking down whether to put money on the Bears from time to time?
No, it's a pretty good idea there because you're always more comfortable at home, Jimmy. Same thing in Major League Baseball. You usually look at the guy who's at home like, yeah, I've been here, done this before. I have the crowd on my side. You know, it's my environment here. I played here a lot more than I played on, you know, let's just say down at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. But it is something that you do want to take a look at younger rookie quarterbacks because you saw Trubisky finally break out, Jimmy, 344 passing yards. But before that, 155 on the road, 194 on the road. So he's going to be 10. We're going to see if this is going to be home Mitchell Trubisky or road Mitchell Trubisky. I just think him playing now that favorite 3.5 on the road might catch up a little bit. I still think the Bears are going to be a really good football team down the road. I'm just not believing yet in Mitchell Trubisky after one game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jimmy, which if you and me got down there in Hocko Beach and played against them, we would tear up that Tampa Bay defense.
We would.
You know? Yeah.
We would. I think it's too funny. These Chicago fans are so funny. Every other fan base just drinks the juice, except for these Bears fans who've been hurt for too long. Eric Nisbet said that's the gospel. Jimmy, here. We're cynics. I love you guys. I have a soft spot for cynical fans. Listen, my Canucks have never won a Stanley Cup and may never win a Stanley Cup. Let's keep rolling along. Panthers at Redskins. Open at Redskins -1 now. Pick'ems. Oh, sorry. Open at Redskins -1, and then on Tuesday they were pick'ems. Now back to -1s for the Redskins. Panthers have won two straight. Washington trying to erase that horrifying performance on Monday night that was seen by so many people. We got the numbers back, and it really put a fear into Major League Baseball because this was just sort of an average Monday nighter, and it absolutely destroyed playoff baseball. Redskins coach Jay Gruden said it was an absolute embarrassment. Our whole team played poorly. Quarterback Alex Smith had a rough game, man. You know, I know he's missing Doxson, Paul Richardson playing through pain, Jamison Crowder dealing with injuries, but he looks really bad. Fails to throw a touchdown pass for the second time in 4 games. Panthers now have won 5 straight games in this series. Could have major reinforcements back in Thomas Davis and Greg Olsen. Josh Norman looked awful. Gruden benched him in the second half. Does Josh Norman come back and play well against his former team? Panthers have the league's top-ranked ground game. McCaffrey looks so good, both rushing the ball and receiving the ball. I'm surprised that with the reinforcements the Panthers are getting, that people are still putting money on the Redskins. Scotty Rock Forever saying Chris Thompson is questionable as well. What do you think here? Panthers at Redskins. Coming off the bye, they looked god-awful.
Yeah, I thought they would be more prepared for that game going against New Orleans. Now, look, it was going to be Drew Brees' night. We get all that, but you still have a professional football team on the other side. And it didn't even seem like, Jimmy, they competed well enough in that football game, not even to hang around. Just like almost like, you know what? We're going to New Orleans. We're going to take this loss. Let's just go back home and circle the wagons. The one thing, if you're betting from Carolina's spot, is they haven't played very many road games, only one road game so far. And if we take a look at that, what was it at Atlanta, which is 31-24, they got sort of lit up on the defensive end. That was a tough spot for them to go into because Atlanta really needed that game. You look at the Cincinnati game, we're a little bit injured in that game, pulled that one out 31-21. I believe that game also, no Mixon in that game, and I think A.J. Green set out a good portion of the second half. And then you look at the Giants game last week. Do you see how bad the Giants were last night versus the Philadelphia Eagles? 1 week before, the Carolina Panthers at home needed a 63-yard field goal to beat that New York Giants team. That's always going to give me a little bit of pause. Also, when you saw the game going on Monday night, Jimmy, right before the game, some of the books are hanging an early number for the next week. During that football game, the Carolina Panthers were showing up as a -2, -2.5 favorite, and me looking at saying, wait a second, looks like AP is going to get hurt, Thompson's going to get hurt, Vernon Davis is down, they look terrible, it's Monday, it's a short week. And then through the week goes on, you're seeing the Washington Redskins now as a 1.5-point favorite, which is astounding when you look, because I think most people in the chat can agree. I think we think the Panthers are a more talented football team. You're getting Thomas Davis back at linebacker. Kuechly's healthy. You're also going to get Olsen probably back in this game. What's not to like about the Panthers? But why are they an underdog then going against a short-week football team that looked horrible and got beat up and banged up and injured? Washington hasn't been great at home, and they did take a loss versus the Indianapolis Colts. And in the rain, they beat a quarterback on one leg in Aaron Rodgers, who it doesn't look like the Packers are the end-all, be-all. That's what you're going to have to decide on this football game. It's another one of those tough ones that we talk about where it can go either way for me, but I'm just kind of a little bit alerted there that Washington turned into a favorite here later in the week.
It's uncomfortable. So far in the NHL season, every single team that's been embarrassed has come back and won by more than a goal the following night. Every single one. And this is a perfect example of that happening here. Joe Yurkovich said Washington just had a bye Monday night. Lingo Wick says Redskins
it's a double bye.
Yeah. Lingo Wick says Redskins bounce back this week. Tomar says, I like Washington here. Redskins were humiliated. Carolina still has holes in the secondary. Saints offensive line is elite. Redskins should be able to get pressure. Crypto Boss liking this spot for the Skins. Wildman Samurai liking Panthers. Scotty Rock liking the Panthers. This is very uncomfortable for me. Vincent K. Mackel saying Carolina almost lost to the Giants. They're going to be ready here. This has become a complete stay away game for me. I hate trying to figure out how to cap embarrassment and whether a team's going to take that and run with it. Now, in the NHL, it's the first 2 weeks of the year, and we know that teams don't want to start out like that, and there's going to be a lot of volatility in the first 2 weeks of the year. We're hitting mid-season or almost at mid-season, and I'm just not sure exactly how to handle embarrassment. What do you think of the total here at 44.5?
Yeah, I think it's about right, because when you look last week, didn't you see, Jimmy, how uncomfortable the Washington Redskins were if they had to go up-tempo and get into a shootout with Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints? That's not their MO. The one thing, if you're looking again for the total or even betting the Washington Redskins in this one, I think Carolina's going to play more to your game plan there, not really air it out. You know, a lot of dumps off to the backfield. Cam Newton's going to be running around making plays with his feet, but not necessarily we're going to air it out and have multiple 5-man routes out there and just get after it downfield. That could help you out. I think the over-under is a little bit light here at 44.5. I think you're going to get some good weather in Washington. I think Washington will rebound in this football game. I think you get the extra weapon with Greg Olsen on the opposite side for the Carolina Panthers. And again, Jimmy, it gets back to the old point. It's not 45. You're looking at 44.5 in this football game. You can see a 27-20 type of ball game very easily to cover that number. I'll lean over in this situation, but I think both of these teams play a similar type style. We'll see if one of them can get out of that familiarity and see if they can press the issue. But I think Washington matches up much better, obviously, with the Carolina Panthers than they would shooting it out with New Orleans.
Very tough spot, though. I do like your edge towards the over. Elio Rodriguez says Washington starts the crash and burn watch. He does not believe they'll come back from that embarrassment. Let's keep rolling here. We have Colts at Jets. This was a confusing game for me on Tuesday while we broke it down. Very confusing. And the Jets game last week is not exactly as it seems. We had a lot of that last week with the Arizona and the 49ers, with the Bengals. game with the Dolphins, and then again with this Jets team. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers the Jets had last week, Darnold, 3 touchdown passes, sure, but he finished just 10 for 22 for 198 yards with his 6th pick. The Colts looked pretty good in that 38-24 beating by the Patriots. I actually liked quite a bit of what I saw. Now, this is so strange to me. We're dealing with a Colts team that's missing T.Y. Hilton, missing Jack Doyle, and Andrew Luck is on pace to set the NFL record for passes attempted. The Colts have continually played from behind all season, which I guess, moves you towards a passing offense and explains why they're 29th in rushing offense. Crowell, here's a guy, 0 yards for 4 carries against Jacksonville, comes back to run for 219 yards. This Jets team is a very difficult team to cap, and this Colts team just continues to confound me. Marco Lube making a big comment saying no unbeaten teams by the end of week 6. Write it down, Jimmy. I like that idea. But back to this Colts-Jets spot, I'm lost.
No, and look, it's a tough game to deal with because you're right. There was a great spot for the Jets last week. I wish I had taken the opportunity and pursued that and cashed my ticket on that. I wasn't on the game either way, but it was a nice one. You had that division game on a Monday night game coming across the country there for Denver. The Jets show up and just run the football and pound it right down the throat. Darnold wasn't great in that football game, but there was a couple really key throws that he had, especially to Robbie Anderson, which turned that tide. He had that nice bomb play that they had early on, and then he threw another touchdown pass to him, which threaded the needle right in there, which is exactly what you want to see from a young rookie quarterback. But they leaned on that running game. Can they lean on the running game again? Typically in the past, Indianapolis has had a awfully soft defense. Doesn't look like that's so much the case this year, but sometimes it just comes down to some simple things. I always think that Indianapolis, even though Marlon Mack's going to come back for this football game, struggle a little bit on offense to make the big play. So what happens now? T.Y. Hilton's going to sit this football game out again. Where's the guy that's going to take the top off the defense to sort of open it up? Because I'm not impressed with what Indianapolis does on offense to begin with, and now you take their best player away from them. We all know that Doyle's going to miss this game also. Ebron's been banged up, so he might go out there for a couple plays and sit it out. I don't see the offensive firepower that I need to go on the road and win. But look, the Colts, even with the T.Y. Hilton injury news, -2.5 down to -2. In this football game for me, trying to make a case for the Jets, I thought they were in a good spot last week, but also, let's keep in mind, Jimmy, Jets were at home last week. They're going to be at home again, so not much travel in there. They're getting used to it. They picked up a win last week, having some good vibes. I think the Jets can handle this game and win it by a field goal or more. I'm leaning Jets in this game. Don't love the game on its outset because we waited all week long, but if you're going to tell me T.Y. Hilton's going to sit the game out, just give me the Jets at home. I think they're a pretty good, fast, and physical football team as long as they're not too injured, because I know Tremaine Johnson, I don't think is going to go. Buster Screen's going to miss the football game, and we'll see if both of those running backs, Crowell and Powell, line up there. But if they do, I think the Jets are the play here.
Interesting. Yes, Moshe Bograt talking about those cornerbacks being out. Dan Kelly mentioning Crowell having the bad ankle. Troy V saying Jets 13, Colts 12. The Colts have not allowed a 100-yard rusher all season long. Initially, when I broke this down, I was like, I like the Colts here. And then breaking it down with you on Tuesday made me stay away from this spot. I agree that the Jets have given us so much value at home over the last few years. And I guess this may just be another spot where they're doing it. Ish Curran says lean on Colts, think better D. Carlos Luders, Colts in a good spot. Crypto Boss, I like Colts here. This is tough. I find this maybe the most difficult game. My man Robbie saying, I agree with New York Jets in the under. This is tough.
Yeah, I think the Jets are in a decent spot. The interesting part is how the injuries are going to play out in this one, because there's a couple key ones. But when you look at just the injury level that's still, and the Colts, we're talking about coming off a Thursday night game where you have the mini bye built in. It looks like nobody got healthy during that mini bye there. So we'll see if that plays out. Andrew Luck, is he the better quarterback in this game? Yeah, he's the better quarterback there. But I need to see a little bit more weapons if we're going to go on the road and win some football games here for the Colts.
Yeah, that's a stay away game at this point. For me, Gower mentioning Colts, Jets, safe pass. And America said that I missed a breakdown for Texans, Bills. No, you did not. That will be coming up, but not yet. First off, Steelers at Bengals. I've heard both sides of the coin in this game. Bengals open at -3. On Tuesday, there were 2.5s, 2s. Now they're 1.5s and 1s. So money coming in on the Steelers. This total has been dropping as well. Open 54.5. Then on Tuesday, we had 53s, 52.5s. Now we have 51.5s. Bengals are 4th in the NFL in scoring, 30.6 points per game. A.J. Green, 26 receptions, 409 yards, 5 touchdowns. The Bengals also are going into a spot that they've been terrible in. 1-7 at home against the Steelers in the Dalton Green era. Ben Roethlisberger, 14-2 against Cincinnati. Marvin Lewis, 5-18 against Mike Tomlin. The Steelers need to get Connor rolling in this game. That was the big thing that worked for the Dolphins in that last week's spot. Dolphins averaged 5.8 yards per carry, and the Bengals ranked 23rd in the league against the run. This is another game that I have not made a move on yet. Scotty Rock Forever says Bengals at home. Tyler Boyd going to eat that secondary alive. Write it down. What do you think here? The total keeps dropping and money keeps coming on in on the Steelers. How are you feeling on this game?
Yeah, the Steelers are getting better as the year's going on. I mean, they didn't play very well against the Baltimore Ravens, had that game tied up and let it slip in the second half. I thought they got right last week against a poor defensive team, the Atlanta Falcons. But look, the Atlanta Falcons usually hang it up on people and just roll up and down the field. Steelers played some pretty good defense. They're getting healthier on the defensive side. The one thing that the Steelers can do is get after the pass rusher. We all know if you pressure Andy Dalton in the pocket, that's going to be some trouble. He's going to, force some throws out there, strip sack fumble. We see him do that quite a bit. But also, when you take a look at last week's game, you say, hey, look, Cincinnati won at home. Look at that. Here they are on the roll. But what would have been a little bit different? What happens if they don't get 2 strip sack fumbles or 2 fluke defensive plays in the second half of that fourth quarter and they lose to the Miami Dolphins? Are we looking at the Steelers might be a favorite in this football game? Do I think the Cincinnati Bengals are good? But I've been a buyer on the Steelers right from before they played Tampa Bay because you knew their defense was so banged up, injured, and out of whack. Eventually, it was going to get better just by default. I think they finally find some reasoning there. Giovanni Bernard, he's not really, anything if he sits out of this football game. Mixon should be able to run, but the Pittsburgh Steelers over the past 3-4 weeks have shown they can stop the run. So you're going to put a lot of the onus on the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, Andy Dalton. And it looks like Joe Hayden back off his injury, playing very good football. Not going to say he's going to shut down A.J. Green because not very many people do. But the capable defense that they have is equipped to slow it down. And I just think they're catching their stride on offense. I agree with the line movement down from 2.5 to 1.5. It does look a little bit cheap here, but I think the Steelers are catching their stride right now. I think they'll be able to win this football game.
Wow. Very interesting. Tomor is saying, I really like the Bengals here. Baltimore showed how you defend this Pittsburgh offense. Keep your safeties deep. Take away the big play. Stop the run with your front seven. Bengals will do that. Greg Schneider liking the Bengals, but says they like to give these games away with bad penalties. And then a whole bunch of guys on the under. Crypto Boss, Brandon Cummings, Jake Bell on Steelers first half. Brick City Matthews saying Steelers need this win more than Cincy. Gower Mesh saying Ben is not the same guy. Jake Bell got that great total at 54.5. That's a great spot to get it, Jake. Great work. What do you think on this total?
Yeah, no, look, you know me. My MO is I like to lean towards the under in division games. If this was one of those like you had last week where, the Atlanta Falcons are coming to town, you're not used to the game plans or the structures. Both of these teams know exactly what they're going to run. It's just a matter of who is going to end up stopping those. So in a division game, put it in the 50s. I'm old school. I always lean towards the under there, Jimmy.
Yeah, and the market's been doing the same thing. Very, very interesting stuff. Well, we finally get to a game that I do have a play on. And I've been told that I'm pronouncing the team's name wrong when I call them the Falcons, or the Falcons, I guess I've been calling them. So I've been trying to say the American way, Falcons, Falcons, Falcons all week because they're the Falcons to me. I'm on them. It opened at -3.5. Now 3's across the board. There's 2 spots here. The Falcons game and the Raiders back in the Falcons and back in the Seahawks where I went ahead and grabbed a number. For this, I grabbed -3 at -125. It was the only -3 on the board. For the Seahawks, I grabbed a -2 at -125, or -2.5, excuse me, because it was the only one on the board. Both lines have gone against me. Total has stayed very high at 57.5. Bucs are coming off a bye week. Bucs have lost 2 straight, coming off being embarrassed. Falcons have lost 3 straight. Freeman won't play. Sanu Sanu is still questionable. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. OJ Howard will play. Part of my capping or my confidence was because I didn't think he was going to play. Atlanta will need to find some kind of a pass rush, and I don't know how they are. Grady Jarrett and possibly Derek Shelby will be out. Bucs defense is allowing 34.8 points per game. Can Winston continue keeping the Bucs as the #1 passing offense in the NFL, producing 363 yards per game? I'll tell you the answer to that. No. Mike Smith, under fire, was once the Falcons head coach, now the Bucs defensive coordinator. He's been absolutely awful. The Bucs are dealing with injuries. We talked about Hargraves and Conte on injured reserve. That's a lot to ask of Carlton Davis, MJ Stewart, and Jordan Whitehead. A very young group having to do a big job here. Bo Allen has not played since injuring his foot in week 2. Howard will be back for the Falcons. It's Jarrett. Shelby missing with the groin injury. Justin Bethel did not play. Cornerback Bethel did not play against Pittsburgh. Tons of injuries, tons of volatility, a very high total. I'm backing the Falcons here to keep their season alive. Who are you on in this game? Buccaneers at Falcons, Donnie?
Nice buy low spot for the Atlanta Falcons, Jimmy, that we talk about, what kind of feel do you get? Because I was on the Steelers last week, loved the spot they were in versus the Falcons. I thought the Falcons, after 3 straight road games in the Dome, going outdoors, would sort of get abused, and they did in that game, which is great because the whole national audience said, kick some dirt on those Atlanta Falcons. The season's over. They look pathetic. But again, this team is built for dome situations. They're not built for grass. They're not a defense that's just going to sink their teeth in and push you around. They're built for speed. Tack McKinley, Beasley on the edges. They're speed rushers. They're built for turf. They're going to be on turf this weekend. The one thing you do have to like, if you're going to back the Atlanta Falcons in this spot, is Tampa Bay's secondary. Atlanta is built for throwing punts for bombs down the field. It would be nice if Sano plays in this football game because he's going to be a key additive. If you're going to have Ridley, if you're going to have Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Austin Hooper, and still have some decent running backs. Now, look, you're not going to have Devontae Freeman, but he hasn't done anything since opening day in the first quarter versus the Philadelphia Eagles. He had a run or two last week versus the Steelers, but Tevin Coleman's a capable replacement. Ito Smith is stepping up. And this team should be able to handle it in the Dome. The one thing, you're coming off a bye week for Tampa, right? You got embarrassed versus the Chicago Bears. They're probably going to tighten it up a little bit on defense. But if you're looking at betting from a Tampa Bay perspective here, Ryan Fitzpatrick's not going to be the shot caller. He was awful versus the Chicago Bears. But now you have Jameis Winston stepping in. And if you watch anything, publicly, man, he's really going to get out there. I look at it under the opinion of now he's going to start pressing because he says, I've been out. This is my team. I have to signal control. All the weapons are there. I'm going to make these throws all game long and lead us to victory because this is a huge season for me, not only with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but just in the NFL to say, look, can I get that next contract? Who's going to want me? Am I going to make a career here in Tampa Bay? So the pressure is on him. Is he going to be able to score points? Yeah, you're going to score points against the Atlanta Falcons. But the only thing I worry about is if a clean pocket happens for Matt Ryan, I'm not so sure Atlanta punts more than 2 times in this entire football game if they come in healthy with Sano and the wide receivers play well. This isn't exactly a poor matchup if you're Tampa Bay where you want to get into it. Let's not forget a couple weeks ago, Mitchell Trubisky, who's captain checkdown thrown for 150 yards a game, threw for damn near 350 yards and 6 touchdowns, and he doesn't have near the capabilities that the Atlanta offense has. This will be an interesting one. I agree with you, Jimmy. I like to pick at -3.
I like it too very much. Why do you think the market has moved in the Bucs direction?
Well, I mean, look, you're looking at that price point as well, though. It's the same thing that we looked at the Dolphins game. Well, I'm going to take a team off a bye versus a horrific defense who might be down, and I'll lay my cards out there that it might be a 1-possession game, and I just hope we have the ball and we can win or lose by a field goal. I can see that there. But if you're looking at 3, I always like the way that Atlanta plays at home in the Dome. They're just built for this type of an environment here. There will be points. You might get down 10 or 14 points in this game, but there's not going to be a lot of stops. But on the opposite end, when I know Matt Ryan's back with a clean pocket, he's going to move the chains, and they desperately need to get this victory at home here. I like the Falcons. I'll reiterate that again.
I like them too. I think at this point, we're going to get to the Seahawks, whom I love, and Thomas Lathan talking about, is that the next game I have on the docket here? It is. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Both these plays, I'm liking more and more and more the longer we cap. Tomore talking about Sark's play calling has been much better this year. Atlanta should be a great team overall. We talked about that. We talked about in the beginning of the year how teams. Now, Shanahan was so incredible as the offensive coordinator, and we thought it would take the Falcons a couple of years to get rolling with Sark, and it seems like they have. It's too bad that they've had these devastating injuries on defense and all these guys out for the whole year, because this could have been a special year for them. I love it. And do you think this total at 57.5 is something you want to mess with at all? I'm not messing with it.
It's really high, and it's funny to say, like, if Fitzpatrick played in this football game and I would hope Jameis Winston would have still been, like, suspended for another 2 games, because I think Fitzpatrick and Matt Ryan would just had an epic duel with not much defense out there with those 50-50 balls just being launched down the field. Jameis Winston throws a little bit of a caveat in there because, again, you're talking about a running quarterback here. So instead of Ryan Fitzpatrick ducking his head a la Eli Manning and throwing it up for grabs, maybe Jameis Winston avoids the sack and gets a 4-yard gain instead of an incompletion or a turnover. 57's a tough number here. But look, both of these teams play no defense, and they're going to like to pass. You probably would lean on the over, even though it goes against everything I believe in an interdivision game, 57 points, but it isn't a dome. And these are some interesting times. But look, there's going to be a lot of points in this game, I would figure.
No doubt. But if I had a free play, I think you nailed it.
Yes.
With Jameis Winston, the way he's not going to air it out like Fitzpatrick. Those 4-yard rushes keep the clock moving. If I had a free play, I would lean towards the under. If I had a free play, I'd lean towards under. Although I'm definitely not going to do that. Let's talk the Seahawks. Man, the Raiders have just left for London. The Seahawks had been studying sleeping schedules, had experts coming in explaining exactly how to sleep, because this is the Seahawks' first trip over there. They leave on Wednesday. They set it up so they sleep on the plane, stay up during the day so they can get on a regular sleep pattern. Gruden, he's got like vertigo. He's afraid of flying. This guy is just, I can't even believe the choices and decisions he's making. This makes me salivate over taking the Seahawks. I heard actually that they just left this morning. Some people have said that they left Thursday night. I heard they just left this morning, which is nuts. Seahawks, as I said, left on Wednesday. Seahawks have yet to play a game decided by more than 9 points. Marshawn Lynch, revenge spot. He's looked better than I expected him to this year. Season high 130 yards 2 weeks ago, and then just 31 last week against the Chargers. Still, he's gained 331 yards this year, 9th in the league. The Raiders have been so strange offensively. 6th most offensive yards in the league, but 29th in points. 9 turnovers. 5 of Carr's 8 interceptions have been on first down. I mean, we know when you back or break down this Seahawks team, if Mike Davis and Carson can get your attention, then Lockett can get open deep. Russell Wilson can leave the pocket. It's all, to me, about Davis and Carson running the ball. I love the Seahawks here. I hope that this isn't me dealing with a recency bias from how good they played last week. But I love fading Gruden, and I love these Seahawks here. The total I'm a little uncomfortable with. It opened up 47. We had 47.5s, 48s on Tuesday. Now 48s and 48.5s here. And Tomore says, I don't see why Seattle is favored by 3. Raiders should have been in the game except a couple horrible decisions. Both these teams are bad. I like the Seahawks over the Raiders here. What are you thinking here, Donnie? London, England?
Yeah, you know what? London games, truth be told, I've never bet a game that's been in London because it's a little bit out of my element on how teams will react. And you proved it right on the point, Jimmy. Like, John Gruden, he looks like he is just directly out of the 90s with coaching. They asked him the question outright, and he was basically gave a response like, yeah, you know what? I didn't really, we'll get there. We'll see how it works out, which is exactly not what you want to actually have from your head football coach. You at least want him to say, like, look, we did the studies, and it doesn't really matter. So, okay, they did the studies. But it almost looked like he was saying, like, I'm not even sure what this question is, but we'll get there. And when we get to, Chicago a day before, we'll do the same thing in London when everybody usually scopes it out and has some interesting caveats to talk about. But the one interesting thing you have here, it's amazing when you look at Seattle. Seattle had one of the worst offensive game plans I've ever seen against the Arizona Cardinals. Completely out of sync on the road. Couldn't run anything. Should have lost the football game to Arizona. Then they come back versus the Rams and have an unbelievably well thought out game plan of how to attack that Rams defense. So hopefully that carries over here with the Oakland Raiders. But look at that. You're right, Jimmy. Line moving opens up at 3, now sitting at 2.5. You would think that Seattle overall is the better team, but Seattle doesn't have much resistance on defense. I think Oakland will be able to score versus Seattle and vice versa. If we're looking at maybe a total in this game, 47 it opens up at, now sitting at 48, 48.5. It's weird to say, even though it's an interesting element, I think they're going to score points in this game because I think both of these defenses aren't very good. I think Russell Wilson will be able to run around and make some plays, and you have the boomer bust quarterback like David Carr. You just hope he throws the interception in his own zone as opposed to the other team's end zone, and I think you can get some points. It's a toss-up for me either way, just because they're playing in London, though, from a side perspective, Jimmy.
London does create more difficulty when you're capping this game. There's no question about that. I have a very close friend who's a huge Niners guy and despises the Seahawks. And there's certain players on the team that he despises. And he said, watch the Seahawks come together after Thomas breaks his leg. Watch the Seahawks come together when his negative attitude, his anger towards everything that's happening there and not getting along. And do you think that it's possible that my friend is absolutely bang on?
No, look, it was a bad situation because, I don't know if down at, SBR headquarters in San Jose or, with any work environment you have, there seems to be sometimes that one or two guys that show up to work and just tell you the same things every day. Like, man, I don't even want to be in this place. I don't even want to do any work. They're like, dude, you could just leave whenever you want. And as soon as he does, it seems like work time productivity goes up. Now, Earl Thomas was a really, really good football player. And I think the writing was on the wall for Seattle, whether Earl Thomas was there or not. They're not going to be a great football team this year as is. So maybe just taking that out where you don't have to answer questions, where you don't say, hey, Earl, you can play this week? Well, look, if I get a headache, man, I'm looking out for me and me only. So you cut that out of there. Now you can just game plan and get after it. It doesn't make your defense better, but maybe a better working environment overall where you can worry about you being an offensive guard as opposed to saying, hey, man, how's Earl Thomas doing this week in practice? There's something to be said about that.
I think that's a nice breakdown. Another question. Tomar says, Seattle went all in the Rams game. I think it will be tough for them to bounce back. What do you think about that sentiment?
No, look, they look like they circled the wagons for that game because, and again, I lost that game. I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, took a road team laying 7 inter-division, which you never should do, but I just liked the way they were playing. I didn't think Seattle had it in them. Look, you could take advantage of the Rams defense, but I just didn't think Seattle would actually be able to do it. That was a great game plan, a little bit different here coming in to this situation because you're going on the road, but there is something to be said about saying, you know what, let's take all these punches from the Rams and see what we can do, and then we're going to fly to London and play out of conference and out of division. So there might be something to that there, but they did put a lot of time and thought into that Rams game. That's for sure.
That's for sure. I'm with Scotty Rock here. I have this problem with NFL, and that's that there's certain players and teams that I start despising and just want to fade. And Gruden is now in that group. It's the Cowboys and now Gruden as well. And I hope that I'm not just loving this spot so much because I have to admit, after reading all of these comments from the chatters, or from the cappers on the chat, I'm a little less confident than I was. I just feel like the Raiders are a dysfunctional football team who've made personnel decisions that affected the feeling in the dressing room. And Gruden continues to make decisions that are just, I can't understand. And I feel like this is a wonderful opportunity to fade a messed up football team.
No, then look, there's something to be said about that because you're like Gruden is like Pete Carroll is already set in his ways with Seattle, right? They have the regime up and running. Say what you will, they got rid of the Legion of Boom, but you still have Russell Wilson. You still have the same type of play calling. But now you have the Oakland Raiders in one of those modes where Gruden has a 10-year contract and says, I just want to see what my football team's about. I might not even keep my quarterback. I might not keep my running back or wide receiver. But the one thing's for sure is This guy over here, Tommy Boy, the owner with the bad haircut, he's not paying me 9 years of $100 million contract just to go away. So he's in that full power, because you even see with Reggie McKenzie, the GM, he doesn't even listen to him at this point. So where this game is going or crackdown, Gruden knows one thing for sure. He's going to be there a long time, and he's just going to do whatever he wants there. So there is something to be said about that, Jimmy. Dysfunction is always the Raiders' MO.
Always. Just always. It doesn't matter who's running the team or who's alive.
Nope, you're right.
It's just a mess. Just a mess. And it feels like Gruden just wants these high draft picks. He wants to show, look what I did. In my first year, we had 5 wins, and now we have 12 wins. He just wants to show that he wants to start low. It feels like he wants. I think this is a mess. If this works, I'm going to continue to fade the Raiders nonstop as we move forward. Now let's go to the game that my man Anna Merrick wanted to talk about. Bills at Texans. This line was only available at a few books early. There was a lot of worry about Deshaun Watson, whether he will play, be dealing with a rib injury for about a month. And we all know why. Sacked 18 times, taken 53 hits. Actually wasn't as bad last week, but clearly he is in pain. Now there's -10s on the board. I remember when we talked about this game, Donnie, at -8.5, we were thinking, God, do the Bills have value here? I feel like the Bills have value. And now it comes out with 10s across the board. Feels like the Bills have value here. Texans ranked 22nd in total offense after their first 2 games. And then Watson got rolling, which is something we weren't sure if was going to happen, but he's looked very good. They get 466 yards against the Colts, 462 yards against the Cowboys, win both games. Now, they were bad in the red zone against the Cowboys, but did enough to win. Now, we're talking about a Watson, a front 7 in front of Watson that they're getting annihilated. And this Bills team, what do they have? They have guys who can get over after the quarterback, and they have a whole bunch of guys who are doing it. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. I mean, Jerry Hughes and Trent Murphy are leading that group, but there's a whole bunch of guys getting sacks here. They lead the NFL with 22 sacks. They forced 8 turnovers in their past 3 games. I can't believe we're saying all these great things about the Bills. Now we're dealing with DeAndre Hopkins and leading the league in NFL receiving yards against a suspect Bills secondary. Houston will also try to get its running game going with Lamar Miller. He missed last week's game with a chest injury. The Bills have a very good run defense, allowing just 96.2 yards a game. Allen threw just 19 passes Sunday. That seems to be their MO. Give McCoy the ball as much as possible. Give Ivory the ball as much as possible. Watt has come together. I question whether Watt and Clowney were going to be able to start rolling. They have. Watt's now tied for the league lead in sacks. 6 in the last 3 games. Clowney has 12 total sacks, 12 total tackles, 2.5 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss, 6 quarterback hits, fumble recovery. These guys are stepping up when I wasn't sure if they would. Now, is this too many points? Do the Bills have value, Donnie?
Yeah, you know what? I'm never in the mood of just saying, like, you know what? Because I like to bet where I have edges in football games. I don't really have an edge on this game, but sometimes you want to go back and say, let's peel back the onion and see exactly what's going on in these football games. I can't trust the Houston Texans, and that's what it comes down to. This isn't the Houston Texans last week, Jimmy, where we're saying, hey, win by a field goal and at least get a push, or the week before, pick 'em versus the Indianapolis Colts. Just go out and win the football game. Look at the last 2 weeks, and they say, hey, man, look, they're getting some wins together. They're feeling good about themselves. They were gifted a win versus the Indianapolis Colts. And how about last week? If Dallas grows some balls with Jason Garrett, a real football coach, and says, you know what? Let's make our stand. I have a decent offensive line, a high-paid running back, and a quarterback. Let's run a little read option right here and get the first down and beat the Houston Texans. That would leave the Texans with no wins whatsoever. And now you're still thinking they're going to lay double digits versus the Buffalo Bills. Do I like the Buffalo Bills? No. But the one MO for them, they're going to be in the football game. Did they play a great game on offense versus the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau? No, they didn't. Did they play a pretty good football game when they went on the road to Minnesota in a tough spot? Yes, they did. How about last week versus the Tennessee Titans? Tennessee Titans aren't chopped liver. They went out and beat that football team. This team, as long as they don't turn the ball over and self-destruct on themselves, they should be able to hang around a 10-point limit in this game. Do I think they can go down and win the football game? That's a little bit different. But I think the Houston Texans, even though they picked up 2 straight wins. Those 2 straight wins are a little bit tricky when you look at it and get into the numbers. They didn't play very well in both of those games, and you can argue they probably could have lost both of those football games. The last thing I want to do is take a Bill O'Brien offense and say, hey, look, Lamar Miller's back. That's fantastic. We're going to be error-free in this football game against a pretty healthy Bills team coming into this situation and go up and down the field. Let's not forget again, last time I saw them and watched a full game with the Houston Texans outside of the Dallas game, they got run roughshod by the New York Giants in their own building, and the score wasn't even as close as actually what that game was, because if you remember, they scored with 1 second left to go on a cheap touchdown to push that one over the total. The Giants wrecked that football team. I'm not a buyer in the Texans. Give me the points here with Buffalo.
I agree. I agree with the points here, and I agree that it's very appealing. First off, though, Natalie Van Rydstrom joining us saying, happy Friday, everyone. It is a very happy Friday because it's your birthday, Natalie. Happy birthday.
Whoa, 21, drinking for the first time. Absolutely. Yeah. Good for you, Natalie.
We just love you so much here, and just want to wish you the happiest of birthdays. Now, yes, this line is so appealing, Donnie. 10 points, it just screams at you, right? Brandon Cummings says, I think Vegas knows people are going to see the double-digit spread, remember the game against the Vikings, and take the Bills blindly. Yep. I'm putting 50 on the Texans in the first half. I'm fading the public. What do you think about that sentiment?
I can't get mad. Look, I can't get mad. As I said, I like to have an edge in this game, which technically my only edge is saying it's a lot of points. I don't think Houston's ready for that. So that's a situation that I don't just like to say, hey, let's just go in and bet this game because I like the 10 points in there. I like when you get the outside, the contrarian viewpoint that says that line is there for a reason. Vegas didn't just say this game's going to be really close. Let's throw a 10 out there and have some fun with it. The line is there for a reason. So look, if you're going to bet that way, I can't argue with it because, again, it comes from the point from me, Jimmy. I don't have a clear edge here. So if that's the way he's going to bet the football game, hey, look, he might have a better edge than I do.
I find it a very important thing that Brandon said there because, in all honesty, if this had stayed at 8.5, I would find it more appealing. The fact that it's at 10, I'm like, are they just leading me into a trap here?
Yeah, look, that's the greatest thing about the NFL. It's damn near the only sport where you have all week to get ready for like a 10-game card, and that's what you see. It's the same thing but what happens in the Browns game if the line opens up at -1 for the Chargers, and today it's at 6.5? You'd be like, whoa, Chargers stole that game. It's a winner. Just because the line went one direction, that's what the NFL does to us, man. That's why it's so fun to cap these games and get into it because everybody has a valid opinion in the NFL.
Yeah, I think thank you for saying that, Brandon. It really messes with me. It messes with me so much. Tomar says, I think if you like the Bills, this is a great game for a correlated parlay with the under. I know we've talked about how fearful we are about these 41s. What do you think about this 41, Donnie?
No, now look, I hate 41s. I hate everything under 45, but I'm going to buy into this situation, man. I love the under in this game. You can see Deshaun Watson and them still have their red zone issues and settle for field goals. I can see the Buffalo Bills on offense really struggling against J.J. Watt and Clowney in that dome environment. Sign me up for the under in this 41. I like that one, Jimmy.
Oh, I like hearing that. Thank you for leading us in that direction, Tomar. Okay, let's keep rolling right along. Rams at Broncos. This was a very interesting breakdown on our Tuesday show. I enjoyed it immensely. I ended up going on the under 52.5. Now there's only 51.5s available. My partner in the Low Shack and the Bag Show, Peter Loshak, also jumped in on the under 52.5. Snow and cold. We broke a lot of things on the Tuesday show down. Basically, we talked about the concussion protocols, whether Cooks and Kupp would be available. We talked about the Rams bouncing back, clearly taking the Seahawks lightly. We also talked about how big that Talib loss has been and how bad Peters is looking. All that said, the Broncos looked so bad against the Jets. I guess the only reason why I jumped all over this under was because of the weather. And that scares the shit out of me. That makes me think I'm simplifying things too much. And in all honesty, even though Peter took it as well, I'm scared that I just simplified the game too much to make my decision. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this Rams-Broncos spot after a few more days to analyze it.
Yeah, look, I'm actually surprised by here that there hasn't been more quote-unquote sharps jumping in on the Denver Broncos being at home and getting a touchdown because, what will be the MO? Well, we saw the Rams last week on the road against an inferior opponent laying 7, and they didn't handle the situation so well. But there are some added things that went into that because you lost Brandon Cooks, halfway through the football game. Then you lost Cooper Kupp. They were still able to move the ball at will. How much is that really cold weather going to affect the Los Angeles Rams? Because if it's just cold weather, Jimmy, if it's just like 30 degrees, yes, that's really cold. They're from Los Angeles. And, Jared Goff's a West Coast kid. And it just doesn't fit their MO of what they want to do. But let's just say there's not much wind in that environment. And let's just say Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp both play in this football game, and they're going to rely more on Todd Gurley. The one thing that didn't show me anything last week, Jimmy, is the simple fact that it looked like Denver said, we can't stop a physical running game. And if that's going to be the case when Todd Gurley's coming back to you, that's what gives me a little bit of pause because I think your initial reaction is right. Like if you see rain in the game or extreme cold in the game, that usually tends to say, you know what? We're going to look to punt. We're not going to kick as long of field goals. Maybe that one catch and throw that they make, on a sensational play for 30 yards, maybe that goes off the fingertips because it's cold. So I agree with your sentiment in that. But now that it looks like the Rams are going to be healthy in this one, I don't know what slows them down. Can the weather slow them down? Now, maybe if there's snow 3-4 inches out there, it's a slick field. Maybe that does slow it down. But it's tough because if you're looking at a low 50s number with the Rams right now, it just seems like they can go up and down the field. But also, their defense isn't really stopping up and stopping people in this type of situation. Even though it's really cold, I actually might lean a little bit towards the over just because I think the Rams are going to come in here healthy on offense this week.
That's what scares me so much. And Broncos have shown no sign of being able to stop. Their secondary just looks so weak. We talked so much at the beginning of the year about the things that Von Miller and Chubb were going to do, and it's been hard to find any of examples of how we expected it to roll. Thomas Lathan saying 6 inches of snow. My son lives out there, said it's going to be around 20, wind chill 16. Brandon Cummings said, I say Gurley goes off for 90-plus on the road. Johnny Z Rams.
Now, that's going to be a key. That's going to be a key for you there, too, Jimmy, because, look, it's a tarped field. It's a heated field. So if it snows 6 inches at 10 a.m., that doesn't matter. But, I've seen games personally watching live in Philadelphia in the same way the Buffalo Bills. If that snows during the game and can't keep up, they can't move the football. Like Shady McCoy's for some reason has electric feet and can run around in the snow. But those games are extremely low scoring games because you can't move the football. That's a key ingredient there, though. If it snows during the game and snows a good amount, your under is going to be fantastic.
And Rostradamus makes a good point about the Broncos playing Thursday of next week. How do you think that how does that affect this game?
Yeah, a little bit. I looked at it a little bit during the Buffalo Bills game when they played the Minnesota Vikings, but they were going for – I didn't actually see who they're actually – do we know who they're playing next week? I didn't really look that up because I know the Minnesota Vikings were playing the Rams, which is a monster game and playing a chump opponent. But if you're the Denver Broncos, can you afford to actually look ahead? You're not that good a football team as it is, and you have maybe the best team in the NFL in your home building. You probably tend to pay a little bit more attention to that game than maybe the Minnesota Vikings paid attention to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, they need to win now. And they were just embarrassed in New York. I made the play, made the bet. It was one of my first bets on this card. So I'm going to stick with it. Scotty Rock is backing it. Colmore saying Denver's in a must-win spot here. I don't think they are looking ahead. And Brandon Cummings liking your electric feet line, as he should.
Yeah, man. Yes. Yeah, put them electric feet. Melt the snow, man. I don't understand it. Nobody else could move. There was 100 players on that football field, and the only guy that can operate is Shady McCoy. Something isn't right there, Jimmy. We got to check into it.
Maybe Shady will tell those tales while he's in prison this summer. Let's keep rolling right along. We have Jaguars at Cowboys. I jumped all over the Jags. I got him as an official pick here on the Low Shack in the Bag show at plus 105. -3 plus 105. Now, again, the whole Sean Lee thing might be me simplifying things too much, but it also might be the Cowboys didn't have Van Der Esch. And we've talked about how Rod Martinelli just gets so much out of these guys. Van Der Esch is a stud. And now the missing Sean Lee just doesn't seem to be as horrifying a situation. as it's been. Now, Cowboys have lost all 3 games on the road. Now they're undefeated at home. The Jaguars are a -7 in turnover ratio, committed 11 more penalties than their opponents through 5 games, still have a winning record. Jacksonville's lost 5 fumbles. Bortles has thrown 7 interceptions. Bortles drives me absolutely crazy. But let's talk about this Cowboys team for a little bit, because this defense has fared better against these pocket passers. Their losses have come against dual-threat quarterbacks. So DeMarcus Lawrence should destroy Bortles just like he destroyed Stafford. Jacksonville had 500 total yards last week. I couldn't believe that. I had to double check that when I read that stat. I was like, did they really get 500 total yards in that shit kicking? Leonard Fournette battling a hamstring injury. Corey Grant on injured reserve. They signed free agent Jamal Charles. Enjoy that. That's not going to work out at all. Fournette will miss his 4th game. Left tackle Josh Wells will be out. Cam Robinson, he was replacing Cam Robinson, who's still out. DJ Hayden hasn't played since New England. Charles, I don't think will do anything. And then from Dak Prescott, he's just not that good. I don't know. In 3 years, I don't expect him to have a job as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's 28th in the league, completed 89 for 144 passes, 61.8%. That's 28th in the league. 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. It is a new group of wide receivers. He does make great decisions with his feet, but sadly, that's not the only thing you have to do as a quarterback. I'm on the Jaguars here. I'm pretty confident. The Cowboys have looked much better at home than on the road. What do you think about this spot, Jags-Cowboys, Donnie?
It's hard because you want to build a case for the Dallas Cowboys in this one because they're a decent home football team, and we all know about road Blake Bortles. He did throw for 400 yards, but a lot of that was just meaningless. We're already out of the game by 3 touchdowns. Let's go up and down the field on one of the worst defenses in the NFL, as is in the Kansas City Chiefs. But what's sort of like about Dallas's offense? Unless they give the ball to Zeke, Jimmy, 25 to 30 times, it's not much creativity. They had a little bit of a spell last week. It was like a 2 to 3 play series down by the goal line where Scott Linehan actually called a pretty good set. But outside of that, they're very unimaginative. And you need big-time players to make big plays against good defenses. And is it going to be a reverse to Tavon Austin that's going to break this game wide open? This is another game where if you look towards the under, what do you like about these two teams to being able to push it up and down the field? Like, sure, you saw home Blake Bortles push it against the New England Patriots and a half-injured defense out there. But then you saw him against a decent defense in a slowed-down tactical environment with the Tennessee Titans. That game ends up 9-6. I see more of that type of game than you would see maybe the New England or the Kansas City game. Because what do you think about Dallas's, way they like to play things with their MO? Look at their games. Carolina 16-8, Giants 20-13, Seattle 24-13. Detroit, a little bit higher scoring, 26-24, but then you go right back into Houston, 19-16. I see a really, really low-scoring game, and it pains me to say because I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I'm trying to find a way to incorporate the Dallas Cowboys this week. Give me the +3 because I just think generally it's going to be an extremely low-scoring situation. And again, I'm going to be putting my money on Blake Bortles on the road, which he doesn't do very well at.
I think that's a good breakdown. I agree with it. Steve Murray says, absolutely love the Jags' favorite play of the week, but Theodore McIntosh under. Says Dallas can't score
I think the
outside Elliott. Yeah, the under might be the play here. It's just so tricky with these 40.5s. You're not even getting 41 here. But yeah, I agree with you guys. I like getting the Jags -3 at +105. I feel like that's a nice spot. Let's roll into another spot that I've liked, except the line's gone away from me. I got the Titans +3. Oh, excuse me, it hasn't. Sorry, it's +2.5 now. So it hasn't. But I got the Titans +3 at -115. I like this spot. I think the Titans are a good football team. I think they're going to bounce back here, but both teams will be trying to bounce back from disappointing losses. Both teams were horrible on offense. After starting the year 13 for 13 in the red zone, Donnie, we said a lot of great things about how Flacco looked. Yeah. They have not scored a touchdown since the first quarter of week 4 in Pittsburgh. I can't believe I'm saying that. We were raving. I was also saying how Alex Collins was going to have a big year. He's 27th in the league with 217 yards on 57 carries, 2 fumbles. They've had to turn to DeLance Turner because of this. I mean, I'm shocked at this. The Titans are hoping to keep the Ravens from establishing any kind of offense. And Wesley Woodyard will help immensely. Had 14 tackles last time these teams met in November. Mariota, is he hurt again? He rushed twice for 10 yards last week. I thought when you backed these Titans, you had a quarterback who was going to be a dual threat, and I can't count on Mariota, and I don't know why I can't count on him. He completed 14 of 26 passes for 129 yards and a pick. I mean, I thought that the Bills secondary was something that you could take advantage of. But in saying all that, I am taking the home dog here. I think these are two average teams. And if I can get a home dog and points here, I'm going to jump on it. I'm on the Titans +3. What are you thinking here, Donnie?
Yeah, styles make fights. We talked about it, like, oh, man, look at the Ravens. Like, in this new age offense, they're going to be putting up 35 points a game. Doesn't seem to be the case. They didn't play very well on offense last week on the road versus the Cleveland Browns. Now you're going to send them on the road again. And this is one of those puzzling games, Jimmy, where you look at it and you say, all right, Chris opens up the line at a pick'em, and then is quickly bet to a -3 despite only 32% or 30% of the tickets even lining up on Baltimore. And they're on, this isn't a Baltimore home game. They're on the road, and that line shifted 3 points. So if you're just looking at the line itself, you said it's a stone cold Baltimore line. But what does Tennessee like to do? They're going to play you close regardless and play really good defense. And we saw the Ravens obviously like to engage in that, saying, hey, look, if the other team's offense can't move the ball, well, you know what? Today, we don't feel like moving the football. And it becomes a field goal kicking contest. 13-12, 26-23, 9-6, 20-17, 27-20. I can see where you're going, Jimmy. I don't have a great read on this game other than just reading the line and say this is a Baltimore line. But if you're going to take Tennessee at home +3, this is right up their alley, exactly what they want to do. And I don't know what showed anybody a lot of heart for the Baltimore Ravens last week. They didn't look that good on offense. They had multiple chances to score, weren't able to cash it in. You're not going back home where they play well. You're going back on the road, and Tennessee has a tendency to, no matter what happens in the football game, it's going to be close. So why not lean on the 3? I can't hate on that pick, Jimmy. I might be leaning the same way if it just wasn't for some sharp line movement right off the bat to push that to a 3, which I didn't see coming, by the way. But look, Tennessee's going to play this. If you think the Ravens are going down, it's going to be 37-21. That's not going to be the case. Tennessee's going to play tough.
I agree. I like this spot. Homer saying Titans still have holes in the secondary. Butler is being bad. I feel like these teams are very equal. And I'll take the 3 points. Theodore McIntosh saying Tennessee loves those dirty games this year. I agree.
They do.
I'm pretty comfortable here with the Titans. What do you think of another very low total at 41? Do you have any feel on the total?
Yeah, what's up with 41s and 42s for these games? But look, we went a couple weeks ago and said, man, I love the Eagles and the Tennessee Titans under, and it was a stone cold under until the last 5 minutes of the game. We talked about it before, Jimmy. Man, I love this New England under with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stone cold under in the last 3 minutes, all hell breaks loose. I'll stay away, but if you're looking at big play offenses, I don't really think Tennessee comes to mind. So let's roll the dice again, Jimmy. Under in this.
Yeah, I think I'm probably. How many of these 41s are we going to take? I agree with you. It's just so difficult.
Yeah. There's 10-3 at the half, and you're going like this, like, oh, this is perfect. And then all of a sudden it's like interception, touchdown, big play, touchdown. Nobody cares who scored points. Oh, I lost. It's tough, man. It really is.
So tough. Now we come to a game very, very different from the 41s we've been talking about. Chiefs at Patriots. Opened at Patriots -3.5. It has stayed there. The total keeps climbing, Donnie. We got 60s. 60s on the board. Mahomes is throwing a league-leading 14 touchdown passes, 2 picks. Chiefs 5-0. This offense, second in the league, averaging 35 points a game. Brady, 12 touchdown passes, but 6 picks. They are averaging 26.6 points per game. When Brady won his first Super Bowl, Mahomes was 6 years old. Mahomes, third best in the Super Bowl era, 1,800 yards, 1,797 in his first 6 games, 14 touchdown passes, ranked 4th. Gronkowski, 23 receptions, second to James White, who's been getting the ball a ton. Sonny Michel playing very good, 210 yards in the last 2 weeks. I thought having Sonny Michel rolling the way he is might be able to slow the Chiefs down a little bit, and we could watch the clock maybe tick away a little bit, but the market doesn't feel that way. Tyreek Hill's a monster, fastest guy in the league. Remember, the Chiefs started out 5-0 last season as well, but this does feel a little different. Chiefs are going to most likely be without Houston, going to be without Eric Berry. I have not made a move here. If you look at the chat, they're already all over the Chiefs. But Crypto Boss says Pats by 10. What do you think about this line for the Patriots and this giant total, Donnie?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, Kansas City's coming in hot. They've won on the road in a lot of places. But there's a reason why that line is sitting at 3.5 and not 3 right now for the most part across the board. It just seems like one of those games where they're saying to the public, take the 3.5, take the hook. Kansas City can win this, but the hook is going to be really nice. We're not moving it to 3. Take that 3.5. You like it. The one problem I have with Kansas City here is you get extra time. Like when you give Nick Saban extra time in college football, it doesn't work out good for the team. Give Bill Belichick some extra time, and with a healthier version of the New England Patriots. Some people still have the Patriots defense in mind when you think about the Jacksonville game or the earlier games this season when they're losing guys like the Detroit game, and you say, man, that team can't really play. That was an injury-depleted team that's now getting healthy, and on the opposite side of the football, getting healthy as well with Julian Edelman coming back now. The problem I have with the Kansas City Chiefs, look, I think New England's defense is going to be okay. I think the Kansas City defense is atrocious overall. Now you lose your best pass rusher, and you're going to head into Foxborough, not get a pass rush against these weapons on offense. Josh Gordon's healthy now. Edelman's going to be in. Gronkowski got an extra chance to rest. You'll run 3 or 4 running backs at it. Chris Hogan might actually come into the picture now. Another one of those games where I said it at saying, I'm not sure how New England is going to get pushed off the field on third downs. Maybe the New England punts 1 or 2 times in the game. Do I think Kansas City is going to score? Sure. Electric offense, a lot of weapons on turf. They are going to score. But somehow when you circle those wagons in Foxborough, you give them extra time to get ready, and his A1 man, Julian Edelman, is back in the lineup. I think New England's going to put up into the 40s in this football game, and I'm not so sure that Kansas City is going to be able to surpass them in that. I really like the New England Patriots in this football game.
Wow. I'm watching Houston this year. He just looks like a shadow of his former self. Is he still their main guy on that front 7?
Who are we talking about?
Justin Houston?
I mean, I would say, overall MO would be he's the main guy. But, I've watched a lot of Kansas City on tape. Their defense, they don't really do anything well. They don't defend the back end. Last week they caught intercepting a screen pass. Okay, Blake Bortles is throwing footballs off people's heads for interceptions in the end zone. Look, if this game was in Arrowhead, I'd be stone cold on the Chiefs. Chiefs going to get them. Here it is. But you give Bill Belichick extra time in Foxborough, they're not punting in this football game. Tom Brady's going to slice and dice up and down this field and embarrass that Kansas City defense. I think they'll be ready, and they're circling this game on the calendar right now to give this young quarterback a loss there in Foxborough. I'd feel more comfortable if I was getting maybe 5.5 or 6 with the Chiefs here. Can the Chiefs go in and win? It's the NFL. Anybody can go in and win. But you're going to give Bill Belichick extra time, and that offense is going to go right through Kansas City's defense like a hot knife. And
if you like the Patriots to put up 40, you have to be liking the over here, Donnie.
No, who's stopping anybody? You know what I mean? Can you pick, like the Patriots would be 3rd and 4 all night, just say if they do? They're not going to get stopped. Edelman's going to be wide open every single time on 3rd down. You're going to be able to look him off. You're going to say, hey, Josh Gordon, you're healthy now. Let's run deep 10 to 15 times a game. They are going to spread this Kansas City defense extremely thin and get after it. And Mahomes, look, they should have lost in Denver as it is already. So I'm not all high and mighty. I like the Chiefs. They were in a great spot last week versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they got exactly what they wanted, road Blake Bortles. You ain't getting no road Blake Bortles with Tom Brady in this football game at home. That crowd will be ready. It's going to be an awesome game to watch. I'm looking forward to it. Patriots by a touchdown.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. This is going to be an incredible Sunday night game. I can't wait to watch it. And sadly, that's not the last game of the week. I would love it if it was. I'd love it if I didn't have to talk about the 49ers while holding back tears, trying not to openly sob at what's happened to this season. God damn. I don't even want to cap this game, Donnie. 49ers and Packers Monday night. We lose Garoppolo, no McKinnon, then no Staley, no Richburg, no Person, no Garcon, no Trent Taylor, no Pettis. Oh, God. No Breda. Give us a goddamn break, Donnie. It's just not fun. It's not fun if you're a San Francisco 49er fan. We have a bunch of backups going into Lambeau Field on Monday night. God, I hope I have something better to do. You know, there's a whorehouse just down the road, Donnie, called Spa Star. Maybe that's where I'll be on Monday night because I don't want to watch the Packers tear apart these backups in San Francisco. It opened up -10. Now there's -9.5. Is somebody putting money on the Niners, Donnie? Because it's not me, Donnie. It's not me.
No, it's an interesting one for Monday Night Football. But then you see that maybe Aaron Rodgers injured himself again. I don't know. Maybe like just get him a bionic leg or something. He's injuring the damn thing every week. Maybe that slows him down. You know, Goodwin's going to be back at wide receiver for the 49ers. But outside of that, they don't have a great look. But I'm not a big fan of the Packers. Before seeing this Aaron Rodgers injury information a little bit later in the week, I actually like the over in this game because I think just by default, C.J. Beathard, we saw it last week, right, Jimmy? Boom or bust type of player, and I don't see a lot of resistance on the outside now that the Packers are a little bit healthier at wide receiver. They should be able to put up points, but now you're throwing into a nice little caveat saying, hey, Aaron Rodgers might not be healthy for this game because it looks like he re-injured himself the week before, which I don't like to say. If I can get a somewhat healthy Aaron Rodgers in this game, I think it goes over to 46.5, even though it is going to be cold in Lambeau.
I don't know. You know, one thing I do like about your feel sort of for the over is Beathard is panicking. That first game, he looked very good until he got destroyed a couple times. Then last week, he's just panicking. He's not checking down. He's just throwing. There's going to be pick sixes. It's just sad. It's just sad. Now, with the injury, I mean, Rodgers being sacked 16 times this year. This Packers offense looks bad. Why don't we just for a second, let's not put too much time into this game, even though I'm surprised the line's moved to 9.5. How do you see this Green Bay Packers team moving forward? What do you think about this Green Bay Packers offense moving forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I guess Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be healthy for the remainder of the year, but if you take a look, let's look at their schedule, Jimmy, right? So you say, hey, look, let's just say he does get healthier. You get a nice win for San Francisco this week, you should beat them. You go on the road to play the Rams, and you go on the road to play New England. Then you play Miami at home. Then you go on the road to play Seattle. Then you go on the road to play Minnesota. Not exactly the easiest environment you're going over just over the next 5 to 6 weeks. I don't like the way they're playing this year. There's something amiss. And look, a lot of it has to do with Aaron Rodgers not being healthy. But I don't think the defense is very good anymore for Green Bay. Maybe their playmakers aren't stepping up. You don't have that dominant running back to bail them out. And you're seeing on a week-to-week basis here that they haven't played that well, Green Bay, overall. Not a buyer moving forward. And maybe if the Bears can pick up a win down in Miami, they can sort of extend that lead and say, hey, it's going to be between the Vikings and the Bears, not the Packers this year. Be amazing to watch.
Yeah, you know, Vitalis has a great point. He says, Donnie, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to worry about his knee when there's no pass rush. What do you do if you're the Niners right now? Dude, I don't know. Like, would you take Warner? Would you take Foster? And I don't know exactly. There's absolutely no.
It's a lost year for the Niners. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lost year. Like, once Jimmy Garoppolo went down, that whole organization just said, well, do we really even care about winning games anymore? Let's just hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo comes back healthy and we get a good draft pick and move on. There's literally no reason to have the 49ers football season this year. None.
It's just hate hearing that. God damn, it's so early. We have 9 more weeks. Oh, God, this is just heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking that we're going to have to keep capping these Niner games. First off, though, are the Packers going to cover this easily? Or is Rodgers' knee is the fact that they're not going to push it once they get the lead? I mean, if you like the over, I feel like that kind of pushes us towards the Packers covering this easily.
I mean, there's a lot to be said because if you looked last week, the Packers defense wasn't all that bad, and the Packers didn't play all that poorly, except their kicker blew like 20 points and left that out on the field. If he's going to be able to make kicks this week, you would think that they would be able to move up and down the field. Look, if I can see Rodgers in pregame and he looks like he's moving around well, they're going to move it around and should be able to score some points in this game. But look, I'm not one to betting and saying I hope this guy's leg is healthy and what the MO is. So I actually still like the over because if he does play, I think the Packers are going to put up some points here.
I think they will too. It's so sad because we have these incredible linebackers and we can't do anything with them. It's just heartbreak. I feel bad for Reuben Foster. I feel bad for Warner. I hope that, God, This is just not fun capping these 49ers. It's heartbroken. Okay, well, that is our look here. It's an exciting week. There's tons of edges, tons of angles. I feel good. Last week was terrible for me. It's my worst week of the season. I need a bounce back week here. Donnie, I cherish the chance to get the opportunity to do a show with you. And thank you again for your wonderful message to Pete and I. It was really sweet. Much love to you, my friend, to all the cappers in our chat. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It means so much to us. Donnie, would you put a bow on this show and send it home?
Let's do a little bit of extra here for you, Jimmy, as we'll bring it back in. You know, another Audible is closed for the week. Hopefully we get some information. A fantastic chat box here. The best part about it is we don't always have to agree as long as we get some good information out there. And again, me and Jimmy might be on the screen here, but don't let it get it twisted. We follow the chat box and go over it. There's good salient points in there. We log that for future knowledge, and we can use it as well. Thanks so much for having a great show. Your sportsbookreview.com, your only stop for NFL action. For Jimmy and Pete's 500th show, we'll send you out of here. The Audible is adjourned. Enjoy your weekend, folks, and cash those tickets.